didn't want to get too political at this part of the video, but I really don't think people realize, certainly not governments, the absolute depths of darkness that lockdown brought to some of us. As I mentioned earlier, I filmed this section like 3 times, and I cried the first few times. I'm finally at a point where I can read this without breaking down, but it was just completely horrific for me, and I don't think my mental health has even recovered to this day. As I said, can barely remember many of those months because I don't want to rekindle them in my mind. And make no mistake, I was trying, even though it was a pretty depressing situation to be in. I spent literally every day of my waking existence desperately trying to think of ways to make my husband see me, to love me the way that he used to. If I just cooked dinner right, and if I made the perfect dessert, the perfect breakfast, if I ironed enough of his shirts, if I made the right amount of romantic gestures, then maybe he would feel differently about me.
She was married to a narcissist, wasn't she? I've heard rumblings of this, but what it sounds like to me is that when she met her husband wooed her, told her, dreamed up stories about their future together, told her all of the amazing things that they were going to do together, everything she wanted to hear. That's the golden period. They probably had really great sex. She got he probably liked that she was Lauren Southern, even though if he pretended he didn't like that it was Lauren Southern. But they went through the golden period. And then when he became resentful of her, he started giving her the silent treatment and all that stuff, because narcissists have 2 main ways that they will exert control over you. They will either get really angry and furious and do crazy shit, or the more insidious one is that they will completely lock down and give you the silent treatment to basically what the narcissist does when they're giving the silent treatment is they make their partner feel desperate to get back into that golden period, to get back into their good graces and stuff like that. And their partner's what can we do to just make it amazing again? What can we do? What can we do? This used to be so great. And the narcissist is just totally it's a control issue. It's to keep them in control. It's to keep your partner chasing after you all of the time, so that they're getting the constant attention. And she just wanted to be married, and she just wanted to have her husband. And now all of a sudden her husband is making her miserable. And then the lockdowns on top of it. It kind of sounds like she married a narcissist.
I really tried all of it, but nothing worked. It's clear to me now in retrospect that to my husband, our marriage was already over. And he was looking for every excuse, no matter how small, to end it in law as well as in fact, which might explain why I never so much as uttered the word divorce once when we were living together, and he brought it up easily over 100 times. And often over things that still make no sense to me to this day. But sense or no sense, I kept trying to fix whatever problems he would raise without regard for how possible they were, because we were married. I think because he had acknowledged the threat to his career that marrying me would pose at the beginning of our relationship and seemingly accepted it, he never would use this as his reason for divorce, but it was something he brought up every day as a frustration.
No. Narcissists will use whatever they can use against you, anything, and it doesn't need to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, they will twist it out of context. They will do anything. It is absolutely insidious what that disorder does to people. Shauna, thank you for the super chat. Yes, her husband sounds like classic narcissism. She doesn't use those words, but she talks about it later. Well, we're going to keep an eye. I'm going to basically be telling you guys every time I hear her talk about something that sounds like narcissism, I'll point it out.
All while pinning his divorce reasons on seemingly less important things.
Hang on. Sorry, I got another super chat from Shauna. Thank you, Shauna. He probably love bombed her until he was done with her. I think it's one of the most common things these women get deceived by. Well, I mean, it's not just women who get deceived by it. I mean, guys, do you think that Prince Harry didn't get deceived by this too? This is exactly what Meghan Markle did to Prince Harry. She did the same thing. They had their golden period. She popped out a couple kids. She destroyed his relationship with the goddamn royal family. And now we're seeing Harry in in this decline phase of their relationship where they are absolutely going to get divorced. It's only a matter of time because she doesn't want him anymore. He's not providing her with the fuel that she needs anymore. So it's not just women who get deceived by this, men get deceived by this too. It can happen to anyone.
One such complaint had to do with my ADHD. He told me he could not be with me unless I fixed it, like absolutely fixed it.
Come
So I
on.
tried. I went and I got officially diagnosed in Australia at a specified clinic. I began taking Vyvanse, which is a like an ADHD stimulant drug. They've got others like Concerta, or you've probably heard of Ritalin. I started taking that daily to try to manage it. I understand even now how frustrating having a partner with ADHD can be, largely because it frustrates me to have it. But I did everything one can possibly do to try to manage it, and it still wasn't enough. I was repeatedly told that I was not making enough progress in that department. And it seems like a silly thing to be so important to me. It's, I've never really had it be an issue in the past. I've never even really had to take stimulants for it. But when it's your partner, the person you've married, that cares about something, it makes it really important to you as well. And if you have ever been made to feel worthless or unlovable for something that you can't change about yourself, you know how deep this pain can
Yep.
go, how much it fucking sucks.
He didn't really care about the ADHD. I'm going to tell you that right now. Everyday Therapist is pointing out he found another excuse to devalue her. It wasn't about the ADHD. The ADHD was just an excuse to make her feel like garbage, which is how he fed his narcissism.
And it has taken me a long, long, long time to get over that properly. I'm someone who very much has the mindset of trying to be hyper introspective of what I could have done wrong in a situation, try to take maximum responsibility so I have maximum capacity to fix a problem. But no matter how much stimulants I took, I ultimately cannot change the way that my brain works, the brain that I was born with. And having this desperate need to make this problem right made me cripplingly self-critical about my ADHD. I know that we make fun of therapy culture, but my therapist told me something that really turned this around, asking me point blank that if I wasn't deserving of love for my ADHD, then how could my son, who will likely have it as well, be deserving of love? And I cannot imagine a universe where that boy does not deserve every ounce of love I have in me. So with time, this has completely changed my perspective on the issue and been very healing. There are a lot of people I know with bizarre, strange minds that don't work like everyone else's that I absolutely love in this world and find incredible. Now, while I certainly saw glimpses of the abyss, I do not want to make it seem like our lives were hell 24/7. That wouldn't be fair or true to suggest that. The start of our relationship was nothing like what I am describing now. Otherwise, why would I have entered it? But even when things did get dark, truly we did have good days, and I would both hoard the memories of those days like little flecks of gold and tell everyone who would listen
Golden period.
whenever they happened, because that was the only reality I wanted anyone to know in my marriage. It's the classic, you post all the best moments on Instagram so people see how happy you are. And I was convinced one way or another that I could make it be the only reality I knew in our marriage once I had just figured out how to fix everything. But never got to that point. And ironically, it was his threats that eventually paved the way for our relationship to finally end. During one of our bad periods, my husband told me to book a flight to Canada immediately because he was divorcing me. And I had listened, even though my savings were running out and flights out of Australia were nearly impossible to find. I somehow managed to get a flight. And because I knew I wouldn't have the money to book another one, and also because it might be years before another even existed, thanks to Australia's COVID policies, I didn't cancel it, even though obviously I spent every day up until the flight point working on things, begging him to fix our marriage. And we went back through that up and down period to an up phase where he didn't want to divorce me. So when two deaths in my family eventually happened to coincide with this flight I had booked, I decided to actually make the trip, my son in tow, with the full understanding that I would come back in 2 weeks. I had my flights booked back, all of that, once the funerals were over. After being so miserable with me for so long, you would think that my husband would welcome the chance to get me out of the house, right?
No, because he's a narcissist. And no matter what you do with a narcissist, you will not win. She was already in the devaluation period at this point. So how it goes with narcissism is like you meet the narcissist, you enter the golden period, everything is fucking glorious. The narcissist treats you like you are the only person in the world. Everything is about you. There is an obsession about you. They mirror your character traits so you feel like you two are like meant to be together. It is just it is the only relationship that you want, and that's all feeding the narcissist with positive fuel the entire time. But eventually you're going to enter a period called sustained devaluation, in which the narcissist is going to switch from treating you like you walk on water to treating you like you are dirt on the bottom of their shoe, and nothing you do. There is nothing that you can do. There is nothing that you can say. No matter what you do, it will be wrong and it will be used against you. And it doesn't matter if they need to lie. It doesn't matter if they need to make things up. It doesn't matter if they need to rewrite history. It does not matter. So it is no surprise to me at all that like he told her GTFO, and then when she went to GTFO, he maybe wasn't so open to that anymore. But we'll hear about that in a second. Shauna, thank you for the super chat. This is important. Women who are neurodivergent are much more likely to find themselves in abusive relationships. There's been studies. That does not surprise me at all, Shauna. Thank you for the super chat. And then Duke says that this is so helpful to hear. The confusion you are left with after being with a narcissist for years is unlike anything else. Oh man, I'll tell you what. I have had relationships of different types with at least 2 narcissists that I've identified. And it is a complete and total mind fuck. You question everything about yourself. You question your judgment. You question what you know is true. You question everything about what you did, what you could do differently, like everything. And it's not until you really recognize that there's nothing you could have done. There's really nothing you could have done. And you also can't save them, by the way. So many people try to save narcissists. They think if I just do the right thing, I'm going to save them and we're going to go back to the golden period and it's going to be better. You cannot save them. They have a disorder. They have a disorder that developed in childhood as a result of who their parents are, their genetics, and their upbringing. It has to be both. It has to have both nature and nurture. If you don't have the genetics for it, you will not develop narcissistic personality disorder. If you don't have the right type of childhood for it, you won't develop it. It has to be both. You cannot fix that. And the reason you can't fix that is the vast majority of narcissists are not self-aware of what they are and can never become self-aware of what they are. And the few that are self-aware that they're narcissists don't think there's anything wrong with it. So there's nothing you can do to save them. And there's nothing you can do to change them. And there's nothing that you can do to make. They might give you respite periods where they're like, they treat you like shit for a little while. And then they give you glimpses of that golden period again. And you're like, oh my God, things are going back to normal. Oh, we're going to get back to where we were. And then they use it to boom, hit you upside the head. Not, well, sometimes literally, but most of the time, like figuratively, because they're emotionally fucking with you. Because that's what drives them. That knowing that they have that control, that they can give you those glimpses of that amazing experience again and then rip it all away and get the reaction that comes with that. That is a feature to them, not a bug. And they will do anything to get it. And it is just, I really like, if you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, if you've ever been friends with a narcissist, if you've ever had any type of thing with a narcissist, a business partnership with a narcissist, any of these things, I am so sorry, because I've been there too. And it is the most, it's quite something. It's quite something.
No. Instead, like everything else, my leaving for Canada became another reason to threaten.
Hang on, one more thing. Brooklyn Way, who I know has had a relationship with a narcissist. This community is how I got through this year. I hear you, Brooklyn Way. My community is how I made it through this as well. So I do appreciate that. Everyday Therapist says, I've had so many clients who are recovering from a narcissistic significant other. It is something else, man. It really is. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. I can relate. Not so long ago, I got a close friend with I got out of a close friendship with a malignant narcissist. Everything to a T, from love bombing to devaluation and discarding. It was starting to make me physically ill. I mean, the amount that it like even the strongest people in the world, the amount that it fucks with you, I've never experienced anything like it. I really haven't. So I'm sorry that happened to you, Rottweiler. Shauna says, if you manage to survive having a narcissist parent without becoming one, you have to completely rebuild your identity. Oh, yeah. Having a narcissist parent is like something else. That is a whole other thing. Thank you, Shauna, for the super chat. Let me get this super chat from Big Jord. You say they know about having the power and ripping it away. Are there conscious versus unconscious versus conscious types? Are they puppet masters, or are they dissociating from their own reality where they're perfect? They're both types. The vast majority, this is a great question, and I'm really glad you asked it. Thank you for this. The vast majority of narcissists are completely unaware that they are narcissists and will never be able to become aware that they are narcissists. Okay, so it's more of like an unconscious thing where they on a deep subconscious level, they need to orchestrate a reality in which reinforces their worldview of themselves as being perfect, excuse me, as being perfect, as being infallible, as being the best looking, the most intelligent, the perfect partner, all this stuff. There's nothing that they can do that's wrong. And this is a deep need that they are not even fully aware of and can never be fully aware of. However, there are absolutely narcissists who are aware of it. There are narcissists who are absolutely aware of what they are and what their personality disorder is. But because they're narcissists, they don't think there's anything wrong with it. And listen, I mean, to play devil's advocate for a moment, excuse me, to play devil's advocate, there's a lot of benefit to being a narcissist. There really is. Like, people who get into high level political positions, high level business positions, make a bunch of money, are super successful in their field. It's not that they're all narcissists, but a lot of them are, right? And so there is actually a lot of benefit to being a narcissist. It's not like 100% bad. So for people who are aware that they're narcissistic, and they absolutely enjoy having that control, they absolutely enjoy playing puppet master, because the thing is, they don't have any emotional empathy. Narcissists, whether they are aware of what they are or not aware of what they are, have zero emotional empathy for you. They do not care about you. They cannot love you. They might, if they are unaware of what they are, they might think they're in love with you, but that's not what it is. They do not experience that in the same way that non-narcissists experience it. So it's a little bit of both. I personally think, and I really do try to use, I truly do try to not use the term narcissist as an insult, because again, you develop narcissistic personality disorder as a result of who your parents are, your genetics, and your childhood upbringing, and neither of those things are your fault. And I view narcissistic personality disorder as a really sad thing, as something that, like, you can never love if you're a narcissist. You can never live your life to what I would call the fullest if you're a narcissist. You always have to be in control. You like, I mean, it's just like, you don't have any authentic human relationships. No one will ever really know who you actually are, because you don't have any discernible personality traits that are yours, because you're only ever mirroring what other people are doing. That's one of the things narcissists do, is they mirror their personality traits from whoever they happen to be around. So they don't, like, There's a line in the movie American Psycho, and the book as well. The book is way better than the movie, of course. But there's a line in the movie American Psycho where Patrick Bateman says, I like something to the effect of like, I was simply never there. And that's reality. He was never there. He was always just mirroring the traits of other people around him. And I think that that's a really sad thing. And not an experience that I personally would wish on anyone. Big George, thank you again. That opens up the whole can of worms of narcissistic personality disorder traits being a social contagion through replication in the business world to get ahead and social media for younger kids. Well, not really, because, well, listen, I mean, everyone has narcissistic traits. Every single person in the world has narcissistic traits. If we had no narcissistic traits, we would not take care of ourselves. Okay? And so no one should be ashamed of wanting success or wanting that promotion or wanting to be the CEO or wanting to get elected to something or feeling like they're really good at something. You should feel like you're good at what you do. You should enjoy what you do. You should enjoy receiving accolades for what you do. None of those things mean you have narcissistic personality disorder. And so the problem is not that you want to get ahead, not that you feel that you're worthy, not that you feel like you're better than everyone else, because a lot of people feel like they're better than everyone else, and that doesn't mean they're narcissists. None of those things are problems. The problem is when it comes to the focus on controlling every single aspect of your life and using and being in emotionally abusive relationships with other people in order to feed your tendencies. You can feel like you're awesome and deserve every promotion and deserve the most money in the world and deserve the most praise and the most biggest platform and all that stuff. But if you are not emotionally abusing other people to feed feed yourself and what you need, you're probably not a narcissist. So I think that we need to separate those two things. And I really don't think people should be ashamed of liking themselves, of feeling proud of themselves, of feeling good about what they're doing, of liking how they show up in the world, even loving how they show up in the world. We should love ourselves. I'm sorry. The problem is not loving ourselves too much. The problem is being emotionally abusive to other people in order to feed our own ego. Does that make sense? I do appreciate the questions.
I was on so much copium that I truly believed he was going to come back at some point, that no matter what, I was going to make it work. Whereas my husband was already saying that not only was it over, but he couldn't envision co-parenting our child, and that moreover, maintaining any sort of relationship with us would cripple his ability to have a life going forward. Ultimately, it was my friends and family who put their foot down and stopped me risking even more. When my 2 weeks were up, I wanted to go back to Australia, no matter what he said, and try to keep fixing my marriage, even if I was the only one who wanted to fix it. But my family refused. They said I was absolutely insane for even considering it. Honestly, I probably was. Hell, even after I missed that return flight, I kept thinking the separation was temporary, that I would go back. I probably would have if I were able to, even just to repair some sort of friendship there. If COVID hadn't eventually shut down travel to and from Australia until my temporary travel visa expired, at which point the Australian government flat out refused to allow me in the country again. In fact, the Australian government became almost vengefully obsessed with me, to the point that when I did finally arrive for my flight to leave the country, officers actually pulled me into the back room at the airport and told me I had to give them all the passwords to my phone, my computers, hard drives, etc. if I wanted to see my family in Canada again. I mean, the degree to which this government have messed with me, some random Canadian citizen with no criminal record, now on both political and personal levels, is pretty insane. And, maybe it's because of my activism, or maybe it's because of who I was married to at the time and the information they had access to, but man.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if her husband set all that up, to be quite frank, because the other thing about narcissists is they are vengeful fucking cunts. Narcissists will go on smear campaigns against you to destroy you. And I say that having been on the receiving end of a narcissistic smear campaign for it's kind of it's pretty much waned now, but for a good year and a half of my life, I like I'm talking like it never occurred to me how low someone could go, the depths to which someone could go to fuck with my life until I was on the receiving end of a massive narcissistic smear campaign. And so it would not surprise me at all if her husband was behind the harassment that she receives, and that not that she wasn't getting it already anyway, but to go to that degree, it would not surprise me at all if he set all that up, and I feel really bad for her because of that.